Alrighty, guys. Let me get this all set up here. Here we go. Welcome, everyone, to another Tuesday edition of CSL Vainglory. As always, I am Esruff, and with me is Belligerent, and we will give him
How's
the
it going, every?
introductions.
Huh?
So I'll give it over to you. Sorry, I
Oh,
was hitting
okay.
buttons, making sure
Hey,
everything's working.
how's it going, everybody? Another exciting week. And tonight we have Purdue versus UMass Amherst. The second to last match that we'll see during the regular season. Purdue comes in at a commanding 3-0 record, undefeated so far. They've only dropped one game, and that was to Illinois in their 2-1 victory over them. UMass Amherst is going to be their final test before playoff rolls around. UMass, on the other hand, is 2-1, and their only loss is to that same Illinois team that took a match off of Purdue. Looks like they've gotten on track with 2 victories so far this season. Purdue is going to be a very tough test for them tonight. I am very excited to see where this match goes.
I am as well, actually. I actually play with a couple or with one of the members of Purdue on a regular basis in my own solo queue escapades, so it'll be kind of interesting to see. Or not solo queue, but queuing escapades. They pretty solid, so I know he's a solid player. I'm assuming his teammates are as well. I don't know them as well, but he seems he's a very confident guy, so he's going to be pretty excited about this matchup here. I'm pretty sure he's expecting Purdue to get another win and go into playoffs with a clean perfect record.
Yeah, undefeated record is not something to sneeze at. I believe they're the first undefeated team that we've had thus far, except for maybe the first week when nobody had played anything.
Yeah, at least for
But yeah,
broadcast. Yeah.
yeah, 3-0 is very dominant record. Um, so getting getting ready to start up the draft here soon. Let me remind everybody, if you want to join our Discord community, just type !Discord in the chat. You can also follow CSL on Twitter at C Star League, or the Vainglory Twitter account specifically is CSL Vainglory. Also on Facebook at /C Star League. And we always want to give nothing but gratitude to Twitch for the largest streaming platform in gaming to support collegiate esports from PAX East and West and many more events. The CSL wouldn't be what it is today without the help and support from them. So be on the lookout for cool opportunities to get involved with Twitch in the near future, and be sure to show them some love for their support. Um,
Yeah.
so you said you played with one of these guys. What are we expecting to see from them today?
Well, I play with Jimenez pretty regularly for a little while, and he's their jungler. He's pretty aggressive. I would say kind of almost to a fault in some aspects. He gets a little too aggressive. He'll get an early advantage and he'll press it a little too hard. And this is me being criticizing of a guy I play with, but he is very decisive though. Like once a fight starts, he stays in, he goes. It just like it's not this back and forth. Oh, what do we do? What do we do? He's got a kind of quick trigger finger, but normally it's pretty spot on, and it gets some pretty good fights. His hero pool is pretty diverse as well, so we could see almost anything come out for them.
Yeah, so a little old school Von C-ish in his play style, huh?
Yeah, definitely. I would say very similar to that play style. I don't know how much of Von C he actually watches. I know he watches the pros play, but you can see it in his play. He understands what type of rotations to make, when to jungle invade and stuff like that. But then there are times where he goes, that extra step. We'll get an early kill and then try and push it into the jungle transition and end up getting caught on a rotation after respawns and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how he works with this team of people. I know they've obviously he talks about it all the time. They've been practicing a lot. They do as much as they can. He plays a lot in general, so it should be a well practiced team here in Purdue.
Very nice. So, expecting to see probably the typical Rhyme and Black Feather bands. That's what's becoming the meta here. But we'll see. Maybe these teams change it up. We've seen some Saw bands, occasionally captains. Although I'm not a huge fan of banning captains, especially in in single band format, just because there's just too many that you can play right now, and you have some pretty strong characters that you should probably take off the board going into a draft.
Yeah, definitely. The Ryman Blackfeather is something that Jimenez I know can play, but obviously very meta right now, so probably keeping those away from him would be a good idea. Unless they plan on trying to trade picks, like a lot of people in single draft, at least it seems like you try and trade picks as much as you can, because if you ban something that's not Blackfeather or Rhyme, you can try and ban a captain pick. Somebody try and bait that out so they can get one of those power picks. It'll be interesting to see if the drafting goes that way. I don't know UMass as well. I haven't seen any of their play, unfortunately. We haven't seen them on stream yet, so we'll see. I don't know if we'll have any of that drafting, strategy going on there, or if we're gonna see, like you said, people are kind of set in their ways of knowing what to go for. Are they gonna just go for the standard bands right now as the Blackfeather and the Rhyme, or like you said, the Saw or something curveballish that they've prepared for? Maybe they have a comp that's ready to go that they just ace up the sleeve.
Yeah, definitely two different strategies when it comes into draft. You can either take away the power picks that you don't want to face, or if you're on A side, you can leave one of those open, force the other team to ban one away, and then you get the other one. Of course, then there's the counter strategy to that, where if you're on side B and they leave one open, then you just leave both open, and that way you get one and they get one. The risk that I see in that, if you're side B, is that, in my opinion at least, if they end up if side A takes the Blackfeather first and you get stuck with Rhyme, the weapon power Blackfeather is generally going to deal with the Rhyme pretty well once he gets built up.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Blackfeather is kind of awkward to deal with right now. I mean, he's getting some changes here in the next patch, I know that, but the weapon power, yeah, the execute damage is just used properly. It's just devastating. Like you almost can't let people that are really proficient at him have him at all. Otherwise, you're just asking to lose.
Yeah, right now it feels like there's nearly no counter to Blackfeather, and when you do find a counter, it does come down to the skill match, because you're still going to have to outplay them. It's not like some of the other counters in the game where it's almost an automatic win if you counter properly.
Yeah, exactly.
As where Rhyme has lots of counters that can be played. This past weekend, we saw Tempo Storm pull out the Sky against Rogue, I believe, and upset Rogue by playing that Sky into the Rhyme. So there are some counters out. I would say there's more counters out there for Rhyme than for Blackfeather. But with this upcoming patch, we're going to see a significant shift in the meta. I know Blackfeather's execution is getting a nerf. Rhyme is getting hit hard, so we will probably not see Rhyme being prioritized like he has been.
Yeah, they're almost reworking Rhyme. I just saw the patch notes today, and they're making him. They're completely almost redoing him because they're upping his range but lowering his damage. So
Right, so he's gonna be kind of a mix of brawler and poke if you're giving him more range in that sense.
yeah,
So
feels like he's turning into kind of similar style of Batiste, where you can brawl because you have that perk on him, but you also are kind of meant to keep your distance and get some damage done from casting your spells. And it looks like we are in a
absolutely,
draft
yeah.
now too.
And we're
So
jumping into the draft. We have UMass on A side and Purdue here on B side. So let's see. It looks like the Blackfeather ban and it is indeed going to come out here on A side, which is probably going to force Purdue into the Rhyme ban. Although one of them seems to want the Kestrel ban, but the Rhyme ban does come out. And the first pick, I would expect Arden, and they picked it before I could even finish it. Arden being widely thought of as the strongest captain in the game right now.
yeah, definitely we see him week in week out right now. So it's gonna be see if Purdue wants to pick up. We're gonna go with Vox. That's an interesting pickup. I wasn't
We're gonna
expecting
go
that.
with Vox and maybe a Catherine. I would prefer to see the Lyra. One way that you can counter the Arden is by portaling in and throwing up a bulwark around your target, and then Arden can't get into Vanguard them while your team bursts them down.
Yeah, it basically
but
makes
they
him
are.
useless because he
Yeah,
can't use any of his abilities while under the effect
right.
of Bright Bulwark. So yeah, that's a really
Exactly.
interesting
So,
idea.
and then you have we do have the Catherine coming out. Some people still favoring the Catherine. I think Catherine's a little weak. And we're gonna get a Saw and an Alpha comp to finish up for the side of UMass. Uh, Saw and Arden works pretty well together. I personally prefer like a Lyra with a Saw just to keep that
Swap
heal up.
heroes.
Um, but we get the Arden and then the Scarf. What do you think about this Scarf into Alpha? Because it's going to be a jungle Scarf, I would imagine. Oh no, maybe it's going to be a jungle Vox. You said
Prepare for battle.
Jimenez plays jungle?
He does play jungle. I'm pretty sure he's gonna take the Vox here. Or not the Vox, the Scarf here, because I don't think I've ever seen him play Vox. But apparently
Oh,
I'm wrong, and
yeah.
there's a little bit of a switch up here.
Yeah,
He
maybe
normally plays
they're
jungle when I play with him, but it looks like we don't know. This could be
looks like he's
interesting.
going to the lane. Although
Hmm.
Scarf in the lane against the Saw could be a good counter. So maybe getting hit with that Saw forced them to change their strategy, but we'll see which way they go. I'm gonna guess Jimenez is gonna go into the lane because he did pick up a minion candy to start off here.
Yeah. Gotta fix an issue right quick here because I have the wrong scores up.
Little bit of an interesting strategy coming out of UMass, starting backs, which is not that uncommon for most comps, but generally when you have a weapon Saw, you want to go straight to the lane and try and push down that first turret as quickly as possible. And I think that strategy works so well in the current meta because it is so common for teams to share backs. So it can take a while for the other team to actually be able to rotate up into lane. But they're choosing to start at the backs here.
Yeah, it's kind of the safe aspect push, I guess. Everybody kind of, this is the standard start you would see is the captain's kind of holding out in the middle and in lane, and then the jungle and the carry making the rotation, full rotation together to get them both level 2. I agree with you though. I would prefer to see that Saw strategy of pushing early. It can be extremely devastating, and it's also fairly hard to deal with, especially with the team comp that they have now, because Scarf is going to have issues with Alpha invading, I assume, here shortly, and Saw versus Vox is kind of, it can be hit and miss early game. It's kind of how those resonance bounces go can really depict how the fights go.
Yeah, and lately in my ranked matches, me and the people I've been playing with have been playing a lot of Saw Lyra comp and pushing down that first turret early. And one thing that's really fun is when you couple it with something like a Koshka that can completely take over the jungle early game, and then it makes the team like really not be able to decide whether they need to go protect their jungle or come up and protect the turret. So it really gives them kind of some decision making that they're forced to do there. But not seeing that here, and Saw takes a stun early.
Yeah, it looks like TNT 699 trying to get his stacks up right there. But here comes the Alpha rotation in, and they're going to do a bunch of damage here. But it looks like he's going to Doc Barber there on Alpha, popping his flask after taking the turret shot. And Scarf kind of coming up the lane, it looks like here. That's going to be, I know, I can see it in their head of why they picked the Scarf. They wanted to do the typical Saw counter, but time will tell how this Scarf Alpha goes, like you mentioned. It can be very bad for Scarf because he's so squishy and Alpha can stick to him so easily. And it looked like, yep, that right there went to the side of UMass, and Alpha is going to get the run, and this is what we were just talking about, what we were worried about. Flash comes down, stun comes down. Good stun by TNT. He's going to be able to kite here. It looks like he should be okay as long as he can block the initiation.
Yeah, I think that was very good rotation coming out of Purdue to keep that Scarf alive. I do understand the Scarf counter into Saw. However, I am a little concerned about, and Jimenez going down low, and Retro Sonic gets the first blood.
Yeah, he kind of got caught by the rotation there, just a little bit too far forward, got slowed up by the Saw, and then jumped on by both Arden and Alpha, just kind of getting clipped out there after his captain roamed down to save his jungler.
Yeah,
and that turret's going down as well. Here it goes, boom, perfect timing.
Yep, great timing from UMass. The standard Saw judge, the way you judge a weapon power Saw is you want to get a turret down within the first 5 minutes. They do it in 3.5, so they are well on their way to executing this comp the way they need. But going back to this scarf in the jungle versus the alpha, as they are now pushing down the second turret, uh, I just I don't know. I'm a little concerned about whether they're going to be able to pull this off against the alpha, because Scarf just has no escape. And Catherine is TNT on this. Catherine is going to need to dedicate a lot of time to the lane to try to slow down this Saw. So I think there might have been some better options, something like a Koshka, because what you really want when you're going against a Saw is A, stuns, and you have that in Catherine, and then B, a really good delivery system for your Atlas Pauldron, and Scarf and Vox do not give you that. But something like a Koshka, who gives you a stun and an instant Atlas Pauldron to be applied on a Saw, would have been a really good jungle pick, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like Koshka would have been really good. That stun, double stuns, I like stun comps myself. Being able to CC people is really important. Good stun there out of TNT, keeping out the initiation from Alpha. Alpha almost going down there too, having the flask as well. But here comes the Saw push. There's 3 of them here. They did lower that Alpha. Are they going to be able to defend here? Here comes the Scarf ulti coming out. The turret goes down already. Saw's really low, but it looks like, yes, they are going to pick it up, and they're just going to take a little bit of an overextension here from UMass. They really wanted the turret, so they do get it, and it's about a 5-minute tier 2, which is really nice, but they do give up 2 kills and almost the ace. Arden was able to get out, but we'll see what Purdue's able to get from this.
Yeah, they do get the turret. One thing that I want to point out is Kestron on this Arden used the fountain to heal up Doc Barber on this Alpha, and I think it was a little premature in my opinion. Alpha has the reboot, and Alpha had escaped from the fight at that point. So
I'd missed that,
Alpha, yeah. So while Doc Barber was running away, Kestron, and I hope I'm saying that right, triggered the fountain when both he and Retrosonic were at full health, just to heal Doc Barber, but Doc Barber still had his reboot up, and had he held it until that last team fight breaks out, I wonder if that Saw is able to at least maybe get one of those kills in return.
Yeah, I agree. That would definitely be a game changer, having that fountain in the fight. But Alpha gets on the Scarf this time right away. That's probably what UMass want in any situation. If Alpha can get right on top of that Scarf, Purdue's gonna have some troubles, because Saw just wants to keep pushing. That's exactly what they're doing. They're executing this push comp really well, and here comes an initiation again. Alpha gets in the backline, gets stunned right away. Silence comes out, lots of damage from the explosion, but Saw gets the turret, and they do get Alpha. I don't know if he's gonna have enough here. Saw's fully spun up, Scarf's in trouble. They do end up getting the kill again, and they do end up getting the ace, but that's a tier 3 turret. That's a hard thing to deal with for Purdue here. They're getting pretty far behind on these objectives.
Yeah, choke point turret down in 6 minutes and 50 seconds. However, there's only a 2k gold lead because Purdue is up 5-1 in kills, and they're going to get a free gold mine here in all likelihood. I want to compliment and criticize Kestron on this Arden here just a little bit. He's doing great at body blocking the Scarf, which I feel is almost a lost art in a lot of cases. At least maybe outside of the pro level. But at the same time, he's using, like when Alpha went in, and that was a great play by Doc Barber, just jump on the back line, cause TNT and Jimenez to turn around and focus the Alpha so he couldn't take out BTK line, and just cause a distraction for Retrosonic on the Saw. But Kestron is using his Vanguard and stuff on the Alpha, so when that turret goes down and Retrosonic was battling that Scarf who had triggered his Dragon's Breath, there was no Vanguard available.
And another fight coming out here. The gauntlet comes down. It looks like TNT got a little too far forward there, and now Jimenez and BTK line having to run away as well. And this just looks like a really executed strat. Well, really well executed strat from UMass, and this is the struggles of what I feel like everyone has with Saw. Ooh, as Arden goes down to the turret, and we have Catherine back up, but another turret going down. Here comes the cleanup fight. We'll see what happens here. Not focusing the Saw. Saw's just killing turrets. This is the demise of Saw. This has been Saw's purpose in life since the beginning of time. which is where I push down turrets, and then it doesn't matter because at 9 minutes there are no turrets left up for the side of Purdue, and the side of UMass has everything. Everything's still up.
This is a very well executed, and somebody new to the stream who just glances at the score and sees it's 8-4 may not realize it, but in under 9 minutes, UMass has taken down all of Purdue's turrets. We now have an exposed Vein Crystal sub 10 minutes, and that's way ahead of the curve where you want to be as a weapon power saw. And here comes UMass just pushing right down the lane. They're going to force Purdue to fight this again.
Yeah, and it's exactly what they need to do. There's not very far ahead in the gold count, but there's no turrets there, and this strat is just working perfectly for them. Here comes a stun from behind, though, a good counter flank by Purdue. The silence gets blocked from the Catherine, Crucible going down. Alpha is on the backline, though, and he's not able to pick up the Vox. Scarf not taking too much damage, though. They end up cleaning up the Alpha, and I'm sure they'll get at least one more kill here. Arden should be in trouble. But, again, the push power from Saw, they know what they need to do is push, but they're not that far ahead. So that gold lead that normally is there when you see a team up 5 turrets to none isn't there. So they have to be a little bit more careful in these pushes, I feel like, because they're getting a little hasty at this point now, I feel.
Yeah, Purdue definitely stood their ground very well in that fight. I think there were some misplays on the side of Purdue.
Oh, he's going to steal it? Oh, almost. The Saw goes in for it.
It was close. Purdue now pulling within 200 gold despite being down 5-0 as far as their turrets are concerned. But UMass needs to be careful, because here one of the weaknesses to a Saw comp is that if the match lasts too long, Saw starts to fall off. So, but we do have this Alpha, and Alpha can be devastating all game long. So we'll see how they choose to play this. I think in this situation, and I know this is not a common build, it's something that I prefer sometimes. I'd almost like to see a Serpent's Mask on Retro Sonic here, because these fights are lasting a long time. He's not just blowing these targets up, and look, the fight started and he's at like 25% health and he's standing in goop.
Good kill by the Alpha, though, like you said.
Some sustain would have helped.
Yeah, or more defense would be even good too at this point. We saw that this weekend with Bienzio building a lot of defensive items. But here it goes, the only 2 people left alive, 2v2, but Alpha has no ulti now. Are they going to try and focus the Crystal? I don't think this is going to work. They're a little too far behind on this. I think...
no, but I think they're too deep to change their minds now.
Yeah, definitely. A little bit too hasty from the side of UMass. And I feel like if they keep doing this, they're going to get themselves in a position where they're going to lose a team fight, and there's going to be a Kraken on the border here in a couple minutes, and the pickup from... Purdue is going to be able to take a fight, take a big objective like Kraken, and then take out 3 turrets, and then suddenly they're going to have a gold lead that's going to be a lot more threatening than any gold lead that the side of UMass has had.
Yeah, because right now all UMass is doing is almost like lemmings walking off of a cliff. They just keep marching towards that crystal, and they're now down 5-13 kills, and Purdue is only behind 300 gold. So they are there. And one other thing to point out is that Retro Sonic has already sold off his flask, and he only has 5 items in his inventory. I think because he just completed a second Tyrant's Monocle. But you see that before that fight really even started, he was down to 25% health. They just don't have any type of sustain for this Saw, and that's why I personally prefer like a Lyra instead of an Arden if you're gonna go with the Saw push comp.
Yeah, or like you said, the Serpent's Mask, maybe they give him a little bit of his own lifesteal to keep himself alive. But it looks like, yeah, he gets another defensive item. Looks like he's gonna go for that Aegis first. That's gonna be helpful to him. But another fight's gonna break out, this time kind of in the middle of the map, and this time Saw gets cut out huge. Jimenez just runs right at him. Scarf just doing damage. The Alpha and the ultis just surviving. And again, UMass gets, this time it's not in the lane at least, but they did get caught out, and the side of Purdue is ready to fight. I mean, there's only two weapon power items on this Vox, and there's only 2 CP items on the Scarf, but they did both build defenses. There's an Aegis on the side of Scarf and a Metal Jacket on the side of Vox. They're able to take these fights now. They do enough damage. They have enough levels that they're kind of scaled up a little bit, that there's no gold lead in this still really for in this game, except for I did get a gold mine, so there's 1,000 gold or so now. But it's equal to the playing field now. There's no real advantage for the side of UMass.
Yeah, despite being, having all of the turrets down under 10 minutes, UMass is finding themselves losing these team fights, just like you said, because of all of the kills they've given up. And it almost feels like they're just unsure of how to finish off this game, where they were out executing Purdue at every step of the way early game. They've just run into a wall, and it feels like they're just unsure how to finish this execution to take this win.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. It's just, it's interesting. I guess they had the idea of, they had the grasp of the saw push early, but then they didn't know what to do with it really afterwards. Here comes the wait for it. Another fight actually starting before even Kraken is really even there. Alpha getting chunked out early. This ult is gonna hit everyone. Oh man, that was a huge Alpha ult coming in from the side of UMass. And now this fight's gonna go. Oh no, Saw does end up dying in the back. It's Vox trying to kite around a little bit. He should be able to take this. He's got enough defense, and I think he has enough damage even with just the Sorrow Blade and the Poison Chip. There's no ulti left on this Alpha, and he is gonna clean it up. It looked a little worrisome when BTK Line ended up dying there early in the fight for Purdue, but Vox able to kite it around, get the Saw kill about the same time, and just this no ulti Alpha, it wasn't able to do much there without much help from the Arden.
Oh my goodness, this is going to be a spectacular comeback, it's looking like, for Purdue. Just as you predicted, they're going to get this Kraken here. Saw's not going to make it here in time, I don't think.
No,
and then they're going to have a tough push. And that by the time they take down that choke point turret, they will be even in gold. We're looking at almost full builds on both sides. I mean, a few items to be finished off. But UMass finds themselves now on the back foot after... after 6.5 minutes of no turrets on the side of Purdue.
Yeah, it's just really interesting. I don't know. I guess it's deja vu for me, I guess, is the easiest way to call it, because I feel like I've seen this so many times before in regular solo queue games or just Saw games in general. People don't feel like they understand how to deal with the Saw properly early, so you get really far behind on these turrets. And another fight coming in, a lot of damage going in onto that Alpha. Now Saw's trying to stand his ground and fight here. Here comes the goop down finally. Fountain's coming out. Alpha goes down. Saw barely gets away, but UMass is in shambles right now as Purdue is just continuing this relentless push with this Kraken after, again, the constant fight cleanups. It just feels like I was saying, UMass got ahead. They knew what they wanted to do, but they lost a strat. Like, okay, guys, we got all their turrets, and then they just kept pushing down the middle lane instead of trying to get more of a gold advantage by taking jungle or something like that. Or just, I feel like they need vision, something more to close out the game. They were so close to just ending it so early.
Yeah, they really needed to probably just start starving out Purdue and taking their jungle. I think they gave up at least, I know it was at least 6, it might have even been 9 kills, their attempts to push down that crystal or that vein crystal, and just never made it there. In that last fight, one thing to point out is Doc Barber goes down without ever triggering his termination protocol. So he missed out on using his ult in that last exchange. Retro Sonic went down way early and had to retreat. It's what was a beautiful game for UMass is just turning into a bit of a disaster at this point.
Yeah, kind of props to Purdue kind of keeping their composure. It looked like they had no hope from early game. They had no idea what to do against this Saw, and they had no answer for it. But it looks like they just needed to farm, and then they just started to take team fights. They have a little bit better coordination, it seems. I mentioned that before the game even started, that I know that they do practice a lot, and they try and practice with each other as much as possible. Even though we see Jimenez on a carry instead of the jungle that I'm personally used to seeing him on, a little bit their coordination seems to be really good as the silence blast driver comes out from Catherine, followed by the wait for a really good coordination fight here. But they are only attacking Arden, not a whole lot of damage going on there. A really early fountain coming out from the Arden, and it looks like Sauce is gonna get blown up. Alpha, is she gonna be able to get her ult off this time? She does get it off this time, but it does end up killing the Scarf, which it seems like it does almost every time. And now it's a 2v2, but we've seen this before, and now Vox has that breaking point. He was winning without the breaking point. I feel like there's almost no hope for this Arden and Alpha once the fights get to 2v2, if it's going to continue like it has been, at least.
Yeah, so several things to point out in that last match. That gauntlet, totally misplaced. It feels like Kestron isn't quite understanding when that gauntlet needs to go down. He should have thrown that down so much earlier to give some peel for Retrosonic. But instead, he gauntlets everybody inside the gauntlet, which is not where his team wants to be. His team doesn't. They're trying to run away. They don't want to be inside the gauntlet with the rest of that team. Jimenez was at 20 stacks by the end of that fight, and it happened. Purdue came back having lost all 5 turrets under 10 minutes. But you look at the stats, they finished the game 22-7. So just lack of execution, lack of understanding on the side of UMass of how to finish this sock comp.
Yeah, it seemed like I don't know how to describe it. Just a better understanding, I guess, of power spikes and things like that. It seemed like to me, and then better understanding when to team fight from the side of Purdue over UMass. UMass understood how to push and to continue the push strat, but they also didn't seem to understand that, hey, by the way, we can't just push. Pushing isn't going to just end the game. It almost did, but eventually Purdue was able to overcome that and adapt, and just, I mean, they were taking fights the entire game. They just eventually, I guess it was just a matter of time till they took more and more in each fight. But that was a great comeback. Hats off to Purdue for some really, really composed play.
Absolutely. And a couple things on the item builds there. We see only a 3-item Saw with double defense, and generally when I see that, the Saw is going to lose, because that means that he's getting overrun and trying to build defensively instead of just trying to take down targets. And then something that I would have liked to see on Doc Barber, but we didn't see it, is a clockwork. When you throw the new and improved, I guess, if you want to call it that, some people don't think it's improved, but with the new way that clockwork works, it works so well on Alpha. You do, 3 or 4 core collapses in a prime directive, and your termination protocol is already back up and online right after you trigger it. She almost becomes unkillable once you get that aftershock and that clockwork online, and was not even building towards the clockwork. So I think there could have been a few things built differently on the side of UMass in that match.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a huge fan of the new clockwork as well. I think it is an amazing item, and anybody that is able to do consistent ability power damage, clockwork is really good on. Like you said, alpha. I like building it on reses as well. You can make it so your ultimate's up constantly, being able to dash around in fights more and stuff like that. Anybody that can really do constant damage, that new clockwork giving you that proc of reducing your cooldowns by a percentage based, is really helpful, especially on heroes that have a longer cooldown ultimate.
Right. So anybody who might be a little new to Vainglory and not understanding exactly what we're talking about, clockwork is a cooldown item, but it also has a passive effect. So anytime you land an ability on an enemy hero, it drops your cooldown on all of your abilities by 7.5%. When we're jumping into the draft here, Purdue now on A side, we'll see what they choose to ban out first here. Probably the Black Feather or the Rhyme, unless they want to go with that. We're going to force you to give us one of them. And they banned the Saw. at least giving some respect to that saw pick.
Yeah, I mean,
Now the black
how
feather
can
comes
you
out.
not respect it? But yeah, this is something I'm used to seeing with Jimenez all the time. We prefer to do it that way. So if you guys see us on ladder, you can catch us out on this. But we really do prefer to ban one of the kind of an off pick like a saw, and then take whichever black feather rhyme is left over. Um, I personally hope to see Jimenez on the rhyme. I probably won't be able to, but he is a really good rhyme. His decision making on it and his ability to land his spells is actually quite impressive. We've had multiple games in like all the time. If they give us rhyme, we're just pretty confident in the fact that we're gonna win the game.
So we see Arden and Vox, two pretty meta picks. I think Vox is has been meta since day one. Um, and the Catherine is going to come out again. I just feel like Catherine is just too squishy and not some, you know, with all of the other captains on the board, she's not, in my mind, a priority unless this is really. But TNT did make some great saves on the Catherine, and we see a pedal pick come out. Now this is going to work well into the Catherine because of the small amount of damage that come out of Pedal's Munions is not going to proc the reflect on Catherine's shield. And Pedal can also snowball against Rhyme early game if played properly. So we'll have to see how this is going to play out. Kestrel, on the other hand, against the Vox, does outrange the Vox with her glimmer shots. However, Vox does have those resonance bounces, so it'll be more of a skill matchup, I think, in the lane. We'll see how it goes. What do you think of these comps?
I like both of them. I can say. I mean, I guess I can be a little bit more lenient, probably towards the sides of Purdue. I understand what the Catherine pick is for. They want to just do the easy lockdown for the rhyme to try and chain from a stun from Catherine with the merciless pursuit into the roots from rhyme or the ultimate Valkyrie from rhyme. It's kind of a it synergizes quite well, and I know that we've used it before, so Jimenez is really used to it. So that he prefers that. So it seems like he kind of had some influence that onto the team. But yeah, like you said, Pedal can get ahead of Rhyme. I think it's kind of another skill matchup. Same with Vox versus Kestrel. But as we saw real quick though, Purdue did start at the Elder Tree end, catching out the extra XP, as the side of UMass only started in backs, very similar to last game, almost identical, with Arden just sitting in lane.
Yeah, and the Catherine does work well for the lockdown on Rhyme. I just feel like there are other stronger captains that can do the same thing. Lance, for example, has the root and the Githian wall, so almost a double lockdown for Rhyme. A little harder to land than the Merciless Pursuit. But the Catherine can work. Obviously, we saw it work last match, so we'll give TNT the benefit of the doubt. Just not my preference as far as Catherine goes.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like after last patch, she kind of fell from her high horse. She was definitely top tier before they reduced her armor and shield. I feel like she was almost pick banned all the time.
Yeah, well, for the longest time, she was kind of
We
not
have an
meta.
invade coming in right here too.
We do have an invade here, and it's the Rhyme invading the Pedal. And Doc Barber a little hesitant to go on to the Rhyme here, maybe underestimating the strength that he has as the Pedal.
Yeah, they leaped forward there though after Rhyme got it, and there goes the root off. Here comes this Flask out. He's gonna have to kite back through his seeds. Kind of good positioning by Doc Barber here. Fox comes down from above, and it looks like Purdue is kind of caught out. This is that over-aggression I was mentioning from before that Jimenez is known for getting caught out before, but it looks like TNT and BTK Line are in trouble here. Finally, Jimenez makes his way over. Here comes the Glimmer Shots. This is time to turn the fight around. Arden having the boots away there, but a little bit better rotation from the side of UMass, and maybe a little over-aggression from the side of Purdue, but it looks like they lose their captain, and they do take some jungle, and they do trade one kill technically, but they do end up getting that extra Elder Tree end, so it's kind of a wash, I feel like.
Yeah, they did trade 1-for-1. One thing that to point out here is that UMass, in that engagement, I think ended up giving away their kill simply because their split focus. it seemed like Doc Barber was on TNT, while Retrosonic was on BTK line, and then they would almost switch, and they were never focusing the same target at the same time, which allowed Purdue to survive long enough for Jimenez to rotate down and pick up that kill on Doc Barber.
Yeah, that seems. I want to ask you a question about that then, because it seems something that has been fairly popular for UMass in this game. I feel like their synergy is a little bit off. I did notice that in chat that Awaken, who is our CSL Vainglory community manager, shout out to him. He does say that there is a skill difference here. That the side of Purdue is mostly tier 9 plus, and the side of UMass is tier 6. So that's kind of a pretty big gap to deal with. And I feel like we're not really seeing it as maybe not as much in the mechanics, but in the synergy and the cooperation from the two teams. I feel like is just something that seems a little bit more apparent.
Yeah, and I can definitely relate with that.
Ooh, a good root comes onto the pedal there and kind of fight breaks out. Sorry about that. A stun comes in though. Flash came out for pedal. I don't know if he's going to be able to catch him. Yeah, the trampoline over the wall. But yeah, go ahead and continue with your thoughts. Sorry about that. They're trying to kill each other.
Yeah, I can relate with that. A lot of players that are in like the tier 6, tier 7 range don't quite understand how to execute on team fights. I can even use myself as an example. You know, before I got my first coaching gig with Gangstars and started listening to how the pros actually communicated during team fights and things like that, I didn't fully understand it. But when you get up to the higher tiers, the communication changes, at least from my experience, unless they have, you know, unless when you're at the 6 or 7 or, you know, kind of that middle range tier, unless somebody is helping you, teaching you things like that. But the communication is different. Players call out what target they're on. There's usually a shot caller, as where players in the tier, you know, in those middle tiers, they look a little more like UMass as in these couple of team fights as Rhyme goes in for another invade here.
Ooh,
but gonna do it right under the Crystal Sentry, and the BTK line I think is gonna go down here.
Yeah, a little bit over aggressive. I don't think you want to fight underneath that Crystal Sentry, especially if you don't have any. He doesn't have any shield yet to like kind of deflect the pedal damage. I feel like we see that, at least I do that a lot, and I see it a lot. I try to get my junglers to buy defense against the pedal like that early. If you have a little bit of shield, you can really reduce her damage from her minions, giving you a little bit more time. But that kind of doesn't matter if you have defense or not, if you're trying to basically 1v2 pedal at the Crystal Sentry. Like, yeah, here comes a 3-man invade though after pedal came in, and pedal is going to end up getting Arden killed. It looked like Keystron coming in there to Vanguard pedal away, and Purdue just turned on him and blew him up because he was already half health.
Yeah, I think it was probably a little over aggression from BTK line, maybe feeling a little overconfident from that last match, maybe understanding that they probably do have a skill advantage over UMass here just because of the way they were able to come back. But no shield, as you pointed out, and going under Crystal Sentry, you know, his fortified health kept him in that fight against the pedal for quite a while, but it obviously wasn't enough with both the Crystal Sentry and the Munions on him. I always, you know, you call it as basically a 1v2. Some people say it's like 1.5 because the Crystal Sentry doesn't do as much damage. But early game, the Crystal Sentry is devastating. Late game, you can take fights under the Crystal Sentry. You're careful if you know how to trade the aggro. But early game, you do not want to take damage. It's just a little ridiculous.
And actually, he's in there killing the Crystal Sentry now as pedal rotates down. Doc Barber was in lane trying to deflect some stuff there as BTK line came in there and did the Crystal Sentry just to try and get them a little ahead. I like that play. A little bit being aggressive in the jungle, knowing that they can get those rotations off, knowing where everyone is. And kind of a back and forth going on here. It looks like they want to chase this down. Fountain coming over the wall from the Catherine. Oh, the one-shot, one-kill, though, from the Kestrel comes out, hitting on pedal. That was a really nice, well-placed shot. While Kestrel was just farming in lane, to be honest, just still providing help to his teammates without rotating. Now that he's 6, he doesn't have to do that as much.
Yeah, the one-shot, one-kill coming out, it does not go wide. beautifully on the mark. And that's one of Kestrel is easily my favorite hero to play, although I prefer Crystal Kestrel in the jungle over the weapon Kestrel in the lane. But being able to like be farming my backs and just check up in lane and help out my laner by taking their laner to half health or something with a one shot is just a phenomenal ability.
Yeah, it's definitely a feels good type of move when you land that super snipe across the map. Good body blocking right there from Kirstron coming out, saving his Vox's life, taking 2 of those glimmer shots. Those 2 glimmer shots both crit, and they half health the Arden. Vox would have been deleted off the face of the fold if that would have hit. That one shot, one kill also comes out, gets blocked up by the Arden. Keystron doing a really good job, same as last game. Praise to him, man. That body blocking, I agree. I definitely agree. It is a dying art that you don't see too often. That you see from captains or even jungle players. If you're a tankier player, try to take shots for your teammates sometimes because it could end bad.
But on the flip side though, Retrosonic getting a little tunnel vision. You saw him proc his boots to try to get the kill on BTK line, but ran right into Jimenez, which forced the body blocking to be necessary. And I feel like had he just changed his focus to the Kestrel, they may have even been able to take that Kestrel out, because they got him pretty low on health just for when he realized that he was starting to go too deep to try to catch that Rhyme.
Yeah, it was interesting. We'll see how this works. Jimenez has kind of been farming this game. I feel like he's doing a much better job than last game. I noticed that. As somebody that plays with him on a regular basis, I'm probably going to hound him for his first game performance, because he got out CS'd hard in lane. Obviously, that happens when you're getting all your turrets pushed in. But he's doing a really good job of keeping his farm going. He pushed the turret down really fast. They're going to lose their turret, though, here after he rotating the shot. But you see there, 2 glimmer shots land on Vox, and he is half health. All his shots are critting for over 600 right now. He is sitting pretty with that Schlaro Blade. Double Tyrants already completed at the 10.5 minute mark.
Yeah, he is well ahead of Retrosonic, despite only being up by like 3 CS.
Another big ulti comes down and lands the stun, followed by the Valkyrie from Rhyme lands, but they're unable to finally clearing up on the pedal. This fight's kind of going back and forth. That gauntlet was kind of aimlessly thrown, doesn't really zone anybody else, but here comes Kestrel doing that damage with all 5 stacks from the passive, getting the extra auto attack damage. Ooh, pedal went back in.
Doc Barber, you're not on a frontline character. Why are you up there all by yourself in the middle of 3 heroes? Just bad positioning there by Doc Barber. Maybe a lack of communication on the side of UMass that gives up that kill.
Yeah, it seemed like they were a little confused on what was happening. He went forward and everybody else went backwards.
Yeah. They're holding their own despite Jimenez being so far ahead in items. They're down 3.5 gold right now, 3.5k gold. But they've only lost the first turret, and they're holding their own. They're not giving up too many kills. It's not an obscene amount yet like it was last game where it was 22-7. It's only 4-2 right now. So, still some hope here, but there's still no shield on anybody on the side of Purdue. So Doc Barber, if he can get some farm and some gold and get, maybe another Shatterglass, as this double Shatterglass seems to be the new pedal build, although it doesn't have a great win rate, at least at the pro level. But so a little bit more crystal, he should be able to take advantage of some of these fights if he cleans up his positioning.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with seeing pedals taking over this game if proper positioning comes in. And here comes a little bit of it. The Fountain comes out to save TNT there, but it looks like Kestrel's trying to kite back over here. But this is a 2v3. This Kestrel should die. Oh, here comes BTK line from the side. Lands a Valkyrie on 2. Arden is almost dead. They're not switching over to do damage. 1 shot, 1 kill comes out. Arden not able to just block that one up as he dies to the shot. And then Vox gets cleaned up as well. A little weird kind of fight going on there, almost not fully committing from UMass, and then they end up getting killed as the rotating Rhyme comes up and just kills their backline.
Yeah, I feel like that's a result of what we were kind of chatting about earlier, as far as UMass just not quite having the synergy as a team, and not. Yeah, and one thing that I just have to point out, because it happened twice in the course of that one team fight that started in the lane, ended up in the jungle. But Kistron on this Arden has flares in his inventory, and twice did not flare out the Kestrel, and twice his team walked right into the mist and got stunned up. And you have the vision, use it. You got to throw it up. It's almost got to be automatic. Every time you see the Kestrel, especially if you see the Kestrel go invisible, you just want to flare her out.
Yep, and here comes another engage. This is a 2v3 without the Catherine being here, though. The Valkyrie only going to hit on the Arden this time, though, but Petal gets stunned up in the backline. He's going to give Glimmer shots over to the Kestrel, but the one-shot, one-kill gets him as he runs away after the Fountain was hit by Arden. And now, oh man, that active camo was well placed by Jimenez and catches the trying to escape Vox, but that was kind of a lost fight as it seemed to begin with. They don't know where the side of Purdue is, and UMass go in for these fights where they feel like they're 3v2, but they're not on top of somebody right away, and Petal gets caught out by a Catherine who's flanking from the fight, and the Sentry also just gets eliminated. So Purdue has a pretty great stronghold on this game now, even though it's only one turret to one turret. There's a 8k gold lead.
Yeah, well, and let's just be honest here. Uh, Jimenez here on this Kestrel, as far as offensive items is concerned, is fully built. He has all four weapon offensive items, and there isn't even a tier 1 armor on the side of UMass. This seems to be a little bit of a common theme for some of these teams that we've casted for over the past few weeks, where they're just getting blown up and refusing to buy any kind of defense to slow it down. And I just don't know how UMass is going to come back if they continue to itemize this way.
Yeah, I agree with that full-heartedly. They're not doing very much in team fights, but they're not building any defense, so they're getting caught out and dying really fast. I don't know. I want to say props over the weekend because we saw some defensive saw builds and stuff like that, but oh man, Vox just gets blown up there. Petal and Vox, they were trying to get over there to get the Kraken, it seemed like, but they were walking into the enemy jungle by themselves without a captain, without any vision, and they just walk in there, get Valkyried, and they both just get blown up by Kestrel Glimmer shots. And this is looking very grave for UMass at this point. It's sad to see that they started off so quickly, doing so well, it felt like, and then almost falling apart and unable to regain their footing.
Yeah, and that's what I'm guessing too, as far as trying to find a way around to steal that Kraken maybe, but what they actually ended up doing is giving Purdue the Kraken and putting themselves on the wrong side to defend from the Kraken. The gauntlet goes down, and this feels like it just might be the last push here.
It definitely seems like that might be the case. A little bit of shielding comes out. The Fountain finally comes out for the side of Purdue, and UMass has already used theirs, blowing people up as Jimenez on this Kestrel. Tons of damage. The one-shot, one-kill does miss, but he's doing so much damage. Oh, it's ridiculous to watch those Glimmer shots hit. They're hitting some of these guys for over 800 damage, which is the majority of their health bar. He looks like he's going to die to this Petal, maybe. Nope, he does get away. Kind of a little roundabout shenanigans going on here, as finally it looks like BTK Line and the Kraken are going to finish out this game and a clean 2-0. Well, not clean, but they do get the 2-0. Maybe a little rough in that first game, but the 2-0 victory nonetheless for the side of Purdue, going 4-0 now.
Yeah, this one much more convincing. Again, Jimenez with the full weapon power build, and the game ending without UMass having any armor on any hero on their side of the board, and it's just not going to work. It's just Kestrel is too devastating of a hero to not build defense on. So it was a great match. The first one really was one for the ages. We see all 5 turrets go down in under 10 minutes, and then Purdue pulls it together, brings it back, and still picks up the win. Game 2, a little less nail biter there, but a great series nonetheless. Only one more Only one more round to go before the playoffs, and that'll be on Thursday. And then we get to see who's really gonna step it up when we get into the playoffs.
Yeah, playoffs are going to be interesting. We've seen kind of lopsided matches in some cases throughout the season thus far. But I think when playoffs, when these teams that are a little bit more practiced, maybe a little bit more, the higher tier, they have a little bit, spend a little bit more time with the game, they're going to come out and they're going to butt heads, and we're going to see some pretty brutal matches coming up, I feel like. And actually, our last game of the season, which is going to be on Thursday, is actually the repeat of last year's finals, which is Cal State Fullerton versus Utah. So that one's going to be a pretty good way to end out the regular season, guys. So don't forget about that. That's going to be on Thursday. But here's one thing I'm going to shoot to you. If you could change one thing about UMass, what would it be? What would you do as a coach? What do you think is their number one thing that they should change going into? I don't know if they should be close to playoffs. I'm not sure if they are or not, but what would you change?
Well, I think that we talked about it. The easy answer, just synergy. They need to, and obviously this is hard to say without hearing what the team conversation is, but their communication seems to be off. They need to figure out how to prioritize targets better. But one thing that I did see that is not such a straightforward answer is I feel like their captain, Kestron, has a ton of potential because he made some really great plays, some really great body blocks, some really clutch fountains, but there are also just some huge mistakes that he made that if cleaned up, he could really be I think in my estimation, a high tier captain player. But just making some of the mistakes he was making just completely devastate a team fight. But at the same time, some of the plays that he made uh, were really great and kept his team alive longer than it should be. So I think some tweaks from him, but definitely just the team synergy, focusing a target and like shot calling. And I think with if it's true that they're kind of more mid range as far as skill tier is concerned, shot calling I think is one of the biggest things that is missing from players at that level. Just everybody kind of doing their own thing, and we saw that a lot coming out of UMass. I think.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It makes sense, and maybe they just need a little weekend. Maybe they need a Friday night after they're done play or after they're done with work and school and stuff to sit down and try and just get some games out and get a feel for each other. It might be really, really, really beneficial to their team. I am gonna do since you did that. I'm gonna say I feel I'm gonna go with the shot calling thing as well, and I feel like Retrosonic could be that player for them. I want to give him a shout out. That saw play he had in the first game, his CS in that first game and his CS in the second game, despite being really far behind, was really well done. So shout out to him for some impressive carry play. But hopefully they can get the rest of their stuff together and see how playoffs go. I'm not sure exactly how playoffs are going to work. We're still talking about how seeding works and stuff like that, but I feel like they have a lot of potential and it was really nice. And as for Purdue, maybe just need to warm up a little bit more before they come in.
Yeah, and I think that while it did end up working in the long run, or in the late game, I think a better pick than Scarf was available to them. Something like a Koshka, something that can A, add another stun to your kit, and B, dive on that saw and apply the Atlas Pauldron would have really helped in that first match.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, like I said, guys, again, I'm going to pop up that screen real quick here. We do have Utah versus Cal State Fullerton on Thursdays, and then we will be moving into playoffs the week after. Keep an eye on our Twitter, C Star League. They will be announcing when those brackets are finished. Hopefully we get them done sooner rather than later, so we can you guys can know who's playing who later on. But yeah, guys, come back here on Thursday to catch that Cal State Fullerton Utah match. And again, as always, I am SRuff. You can follow me on Twitter at the SRuff. And then as always, pleasure to have Belligerent here, the coach of Nova Esports, giving us some great insight into what's going on here in the CSLVG.
Always happy to be here. Always a pleasure to cast here on CSL. You can follow me at belligerent_VG. That's spelled BLG3RNT. But definitely come back on Thursday to check out the final match of the regular season that will be casted here on C Star League on Twitch.
Yeah, and like I said, guys, we'll see you on Thursday for some more action, and have a good rest of your night.
Have a good one.